Mohandas Gandhi. Okay, and that would be our blank for civil disobedience. All right, civil disobedience, and you may have heard this from the civil rights movement. It was used significantly by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States, but also by Mohandas Gandhi in the Indian, what I guess, resistance to British rule. Civil disobedience is the refusal to obey laws that are considered unjust. A person breaks a law and they believe to be unjust, and accepts the consequences under protest without physically resisting. So, at school, let's say, you could say if you thought a school rule was wrong. Let's say you thought that the 10-10 rule, we have if this is, we're watching this in the future, and the 10-10 rule doesn't exist right now, we have a 10-10 rule. You're not allowed to go to the bathroom the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes of class. All right. Civil disobedience would be if students just used the restroom in the first 10 minutes of class, accepted that they would get a detention, and took the detention and just continued to do it, continued getting detentions, and said that rule is unjust. I am not suggesting that you do that. Okay, but that would be how you would address that through civil disobedience. Or if you thought that the cell phone rule was unfair at the school, you would simply have your cell phone on you, and when a teacher told you to not do it, not have the cell phone, you would refuse to put your cell phone in the back of the classroom and accept the detention, accept the suspension, and you would get a movement of people that just refuse to obey the law. Okay, refuse to obey the rule. Again, without physical, it's not like you overthrow the classroom or overthrow the government violently. Don't think like the French Revolution where they're burning down the Bastille and things like that. You are simply saying, I will not follow the law, and you do not follow the law. I accept the consequences under protest. All right. Now we are to our Mohandas Gandhi blank. Mohandas Gandhi was an Indian political leader who I'm sure, if you don't like recognize it, you recognize him. Like he's a very famous. His look is very famous. He's a distinct looking gentleman. He's an Indian political leader who used civil disobedience to push for Indian independence. In 1930, the British increased a tax on salt, and on the other side of that, they increased a tax on salt and prohibited. I will fix it. Let's just say making their own, for making their own. I'll fix that on yours. And prohibited them from making. No, and prohibited Indians from making their own. As a result, Indians had no choice but to purchase expensive British salt. So the British say it's illegal to. So we got the salt, basically. British say you're not allowed to make salt at home. You have to buy our salt, and it's super expensive. All right. So like, yeah, imagine if in America, let's say the government said you must buy government stamped eggs, and eggs are $20 a carton, and you are not allowed to have chickens at home. You're not allowed to produce your own eggs. You have to buy our eggs, even though it would be much cheaper to just make eggs or just have some local farmers. Let's just say that Washington, D.C. said you have to have our eggs, and they're $20 a carton. That's the equivalent of what they're doing here. So, this is very famous. It's a big part of the movie Gandhi, the Salt March. So in 1930, Gandhi led thousands of Indians on this 240-mile march, all right, to the sea to harvest their own salt. So it's a saltwater sea, so it's very easy to, like, you just dry the water out, right? You got salt water, you dry it, and you have salt, all right? And so that's illegal because it's not British salt. So they go, the British know they're going, they're not hiding that they're going, they're saying, right, this is civil disobedience, they're saying we're going to go and we're going to definitely just go and make this salt. It was illegal. So as soon as they get the ocean, they like get a little salt, they take the salt, yummy, yummy, they sprinkle it on their French fries or whatever, and he and the others were arrested. Not everybody, but the leaders. I don't believe they could have arrested anybody. Everybody, I don't know. But there was like a lot of people on the Salt March. All right. So yeah, that's what's going on in India. Well, the kind of the end of this little thing, we're going to return to this. This is just kind of the intro of like, what we're kind of thinking. All right. Another leader during this time was, and I'm like pretty confident I'm butchering this name, was, I mean, people just call him Nehru. This is they go, Jawaharlal, Jawaharlal. I don't know. Nehru. I'm not being dismissive. He's a very important historical figure. Um, I'm being like Western centric, but that's like a little bit of a tough name for me. I'm sorry. I will educate myself after this video. Um, Upper class intellectual who studied in Great Britain. He led a nationalist movement that was more Western in nature, kind of more traditional, where he is talking about Indian pride and just kind of not as much into like the civil disobedience aspect of it as Gandhi. And so what we want to know is that we're kind of getting a split in terms of how people are like trying to protest and will become relevant later, are basically trying to get Britain out of India. And so we have a split between kind of the people that are following Gandhi and the people that are following Nehru, but we also are having a split between people in India who are Hindu and people who are Muslim. And we will note, we've talked about this before in this class, that religion sometimes is more than just religion. A lot of times is more than just religion. Sometimes it's about like culture and life choices, right? And so Hindu people and Muslim people really have a tendency, and Christian people and people of all sorts of religions have a tendency to identify with that religion and the values that that religion kind of espouses. And so people see themselves as being very closely aligned a lot of times with people that are the same religion and very, very different than people who are of other religions. This is like a fact of life. Think about people that are really, really religious in America. Like really, we have more Christians obviously than Hindus or Muslims. But think about how kind of it's very possible to see yourself as being an in group, and the people in your church and the way that you live your life and the culture and the morality is like this. This is the in group, and then people on the outside, the heathens, potentially are kind of the others. And so you see this divide in like religious belief, but also in like culture and identity. And so we have two main groups inside of India, the Hindus and the Muslims. And so they had very kind of different ideas in terms of the governance of India. And eventually down the road, we'll talk about it later, they have significant conflicts, and eventually India is split up into two countries. All right, India, which is the Hindu portion of what we're talking about now, and Pakistan. And those are the countries, Pakistan. What on earth? Pakistan. All right, the two countries that it is divided to today, and that conflict, that disagreement persists to this day. There are significant disagreements between India and Pakistan. And it's actually kind of a scary part of the world because they both have nuclear weapons and they get angry at each other from time to time. they have like sword rattling between the two of them. They share a border and a common culture, common heritage. So we will talk about that more. But that is our intro on India. That's it. I hope this was helpful.